Not a lot, but I think I follow some of the thinkers who have seen and built large scale products. So Shreyas, I follow Lenny's podcast or something, and a newsletter I listen and follow, read through. Um, then there are some communities, let's say, for example, the product folks is a community where I interact with folks or somehow also join their sessions. If you are more into technical product management, there is this newsletter called Byte Go. That's an interesting newsletter. They come up with certain aspects in engineering side and explain it in a very easy to understand.
Welcome everyone to a brand new episode of Engatica's interview series. I'm your host Labdi Jugatar, and we are really glad to have you join us today. And today we have Ankit Gupta on the show. Ankit is a digital executive with more than 16 years of experience in building technology platforms and implementing product-first growth strategies. He has led product teams in Germany, Indonesia, and India, building in-house products for customer engagement, monetization, and data products like A/B testing, customer app and install, and retention tracking. Ankit was a head of products at Farmeasy, leading a team of product managers to drive growth and revenue for 3 business units. Welcome, Ankit. Before we dive into the interview, let me tell you what the series is all about. The Engatica interview series is a powerhouse of insights from industry experts and influencers from around the world. A platform that provides the latest news on AI, automation, and technologies that will help you grow your business. Come be a part of a community where we learn, share, and grow with us.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the introduction of the series as well as me. And it's great to be part of this podcast series.
Hey, Ankit. So my first question to you is, do you follow a framework to evaluate a digital product? And would you like to share it with the audience?
Sure. Hey, lovely. Thanks for the invite again. And yeah, let's get started with the question you have. I do follow a framework to evaluate a digital product. I have it like a 7C framework. And yeah, there is a one bonus as well. So I'll first go through these 7 pointers and take an example of one of the companies, let's say Google now. So the 7C framework is first is customer focus. The product should have and should demonstrate that it's customer first approach they have taken while designing the product or the feature. Second is it has to be contextual in nature. When I say contextual, I talk about cohort-based personalization or one-on-one personalization. And briefly, we touched about this personalization part in the first discussion we had. The third C is consistent. So when I say consistent, it's about the product should be consistent across platforms, iOS, Android, web, mWeb, etc. So whatever you're building, the user should be able to see a consistent behavior across devices, platform. Similarly, it also based upon the different versions of the app. So it should be consistent. Concise. So fourth variable is concise. The fourth C is concise. This specifically talks about the product copies which you use, or the amount of information you are able to pack in a specific real estate. So that's the fourth variable. So product feature should be concise. The fifth one is calculable. So whatever you are making a change or building a product feature, you should have the right metrics in place to calculate the impact, calculate whether your North Star metrics are moving in the right direction or not. So that's the fifth C. Sixth is coherent. So when I say coherency, I talk about design language being followed. So let's say if they are using 4 design templates or 4 design palettes, it should remain across the flow of an app or a website. The blue should mean, let's say, a CTA color. So a blue on pink, whatever. So it should not be that, okay, a CTA on one page is very different from and look and feel from another page within the ecosystem. So that's what I mean by coherency. And last, I would say is about cool. This is the last C is about cool. I give you an example. So for example, in Google now, you will have these cool animations about weather, like there is a frog moving. At Myntra, you will see some cool quotations when the page is loading. So these small tidbits add to the coolness factor. Really differentiates you from your competition. So these are 7C framework. I'll quickly go through by taking an example of all these C's. So when I talk about customer focus, let's take an example of this product which I really like. This is a Google. They call the Google Now. It used to be called Google Now, but this is the default Google page. If you have a Google added to your smartphone. So the first C is customer focus. Whenever you go and start this page for the first time, it starts with taking certain inputs from you. So what kind of content you like, it will ask you to choose certain content. And then it will try to take access to whether your local information, your sport, if you follow teams, if you follow certain stars in entertainment or shows, it will start to take this information from you. So it clearly demonstrates that they are talking about customer first, or they have clear customer focus. So that's the first C. Second is about being contextual, which is around personalization, right? So this specific variable, as I spoke in the first as well, is more around personalization. If even anytime you open Google Now or Google Feed, you will see the results, or even Google News now, everything is contextualized for you. So if you follow certain kind of news feeds, they will come on top. If you follow, let's say, startup news, that content will follow come. And it also picks up relevant contents. For example, it tells you that, okay, this is the time you travel back home or to your office. There is X amount of traffic on your way back home. If there's a meeting coming, starting in after 15 minutes, you will see that card pushed there and highlighting that, hey, this is something like a meeting coming up in 15 minutes. Be prepared for it or something. So I see that, okay, the Google Now cards, etc., are very contextual in nature. Similarly, if I have to evaluate Myntra, I can give some examples from there as well. So we pick up location and contextualize the cards on homepage and other pages based upon your location, etc. But I will not go or try to take as little as possible on Myntra's examples, because I talk about it in the previous session. The third C is about being consistent. So anytime you open a Google feed on desktop or mobile web or mobile app, you will see the similar results. The design language or the content will not change. So that's the consistency part. The fourth one is about being concise. The entire page and communication is distributed across certain cards, and the cards are designed in a MECE, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive way. So they will cover most of the information you have and you want to convey to the user. They will be covered. So that's the fourth C, concise. Fifth, I spoke about calculable. So whether it's Google Now or now Google News or the features, they always take this explicit feedback. Did you like this recommendation? Do you want more of this, fewer of this? Why did you not like it? So not just implicit feedback by CTRs, click-through rates, interactions, but they explicitly also ask feedback from the users. That's something I can really relate that, okay, they are trying to measure each and every feature which they're launching. You will see the same thing across LinkedIn as well. So if they're recommending you a job, they will also ask you feedback whether the job was relevant or not. So that's the fourth point, I think, calculable.
Open-ended questions in some cases.
Sorry?
Open-ended questions in some cases, so that, like any feedback related to anything that is there from the user.
For the specific feature or product. So not just quantifiable metrics like click-through rates, whether your interaction data, but also open-ended direct qualitative feedback. from the customers. So both are important, and you will see it baked in a lot of production features. The next one is about coherency. So coherent, as I mentioned, it's about the same card, the color, size, the should be consistent all across. So whether if you're using a card layout, you're using a card layout for website, for your mobile web, for apps, both Android and iOS, and you will see the same design layout. If it's a curved card, you will see curved card all across the platform. It will not be like bold edges on iOS and sharp or curved edges on Android. So that's what I talk about coherency. Similarly, concept can be applied to colors or the branding iconography. So icons, for example, shipping is very usually associated with this a truck moving fast and all. So all those things has to be consistent across your communication, and not just your app, any customer touch point. Let's say, for example, emailer is being sent, the same icons of shipping should be used even there. So that's what I mean by coherent. And the last one is about the cool. The Google Doodle is a very good example of adding that coolness quotient. Google Weather is an example how they use animations. And Myntra has tried as well. So sometimes in events like Christmas, there will be Santa flowing and jumping. So we use Lottie animations for those to add those quirky bites. Similarly, I spoke about end of page liners, like instead of saying that's all, folks, they're getting more creative copies, etc. So these are the 7 C's I use to evaluate a digital product. So it's customer focus. Just a recap: customer focus. Second is contextual. Third is consistent. Fourth is concise. Fifth is calculable. Sixth is coherent, and seventh is cool. So this is my framework to evaluate a digital product, and yeah, it can be helpful for the audience. Let's somebody ask them, okay, this is a common interview question: which product do you love, and how do you really and why do you love it? Like, so if people answer it in a more structured framework way, yeah, they will be able to cover all the aspects of a digital product. Yeah, that's where I'll pause about it.
Understood. Also, coming to your previous point about consistency, I've also seen that when it comes to maintaining consistency between desktop and mobile application, the user experience in both the devices are very different, right? And on desktop and mobile, especially on mobile, like people are used to seeing a standard or a different UX, right? That is also like shown on most of the applications. So here it becomes a challenge to keep a balance between the user experience that we're showing on both the devices, right?
Yeah, I would answer that it's about prioritization. So if you see larger companies, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, the typical fan companies, if they have a desktop product, it will be very much in line and sync with their mobile versions as well. Yeah, I have seen that, okay, there are certain features which get prioritized for mobile versions first, because most of the dhanda comes from there, the business comes from there. And if you have limited bandwidth, you try to focus where you get most of the users, which is usually mobile in India. And it's okay that, okay, you prioritize them first, but I think it should be part of the roadmap that certain features should be inconsistent all across the platforms which you serve.
Absolutely, right. Yeah, that was a very interesting conversation. Okay. All right. So can you tell us how do you stay up to date with the latest trends and developments in the technology and business? And what sources do you rely on for information and inspiration?
Okay. How do I update? I follow certain people and tags on Medium and Twitter. Also try to go and attend some of the conferences to know what are the key challenges people are facing, or some of the products they are working on, what's happening in the market. Try to learn as much as possible. One area which personal goal for me is more to learn about this Web3. I have very little context. I have some basic knowledge of blockchain, how they work, how they're important, etc. Maintaining those ledgers, but specifically trading products and all, I don't have much knowledge. So yeah, so to be updated, Twitter, Medium, Substack, now podcasts are a great methods to be updated. So I make sure that whenever I'm traveling in my car, or I have time, I listen to podcast instead of now I'm shifting a little bit from listening to songs to spending time on podcast. And then those podcasts are also of different genres. So I love to know about and read or hear about psychology related podcast or history related podcasts. So that helps me get a wider view. So yeah, these are the resources I can mention and share with the folks.
Right. That is very interesting. Great. Okay. So can you tell us how do you prioritize learning opportunities and stay motivated to continue developing your skills and knowledge in your areas of specialization?
How do I prioritize? Interesting. I mean, it's an easy answer when I look about developing a product. I mean, we follow frameworks like RICE, reach, impact, confidence, effort. But if I speak in terms of the available knowledge, I think it's mostly related to a problem I may be facing at work, and then I try to a more broader problem. So, for example, how do you grow the company when you have no or limited resources? Right? How do you continue to grow? So that's a very open-ended and generic statement. And then we try to answer it based upon different frameworks which are available in the market to solve this. So, for example, typically you hear this from product-led growth. This actually came because of the need of the hour to grow with lesser amount of capital required. Right? And this actually means very different in each company. So, for example, the company I worked, Myntra, it meant that product managers are given responsibility to grow business metrics, revenue per user, without having any of their marketing budget of their own. So they were forced to go ahead and build a framework which will increase revenue per user while making some product features. So, for example, my team came up with this framework of then further dividing the revenue per user into 4 areas. So first was conversion improvement. Second was so because you increase conversion, revenue per user will go up. Second is average order value increase. Now, average order value can be increased in 2 ways. You sell a higher item selling price to the same user. So you were selling a shirt which was costing 1,000 rupees. Now you try to sell a product which is 1,200. So that means your ISP goes up and the revenue per user also goes up. The third is same AOV increase, but it can be done by, if the average basket value was 1.2, can it be increased to 1.4? So we build product features which help you nudge at the checkout, at the cart, that, hey, you can also add this product, market basket analysis kind of products. So that will help you increase the items per order and eventually increase average order value. The third variable which we used was increasing LTV or repeat rate. I think we touched upon this particular example in the last session. Some of the features we built to improve adoption of Myntra credit. So that's an example of focusing or increasing revenue per user by increasing LTV. And fourth one was very specific to Myntra, was reducing returns, for example. So if we reduce returns, which is a major pain point for companies like Myntra and other fashion apparel, we also increase revenue per user. So that's a framework we built. Like, for increasing revenue per user, we will focus on these 4 sub metrics and then build features around this. And while taking inspiration for building features, we went ahead to different companies, industries. How do they solve for each of them? What are the techniques they use for conversion improvement? What are the techniques or tactics they use for, let's say, LTV increase. So that's how I build my framework around a specific problem which is thrown at me. Similarly, I mean, I can give another example of, let's say we are thinking about when we started this team of prioritizing revenue per user, and the core problem for us was how to grow without any marketing budget. We also thought about how do other companies internationally grow. So they all know that, okay, after certain, so you can grow by, let's say, getting more wallet share from the same customers, or you try to increase your wallet size. That means you try to sell more and more products. So for example, if a customer is there for books, you try to sell them shoes, you try to sell them I don't know, some mobile phones. So that's one way to grow. So you get more avenues to get more wallet share. The second is you try to find new customers itself. And for example, international companies outside India, they go to new geographical locations. So if I take an example of Hugo Boss, they were most popular in Germany. Then they go to DACH region, which is German-speaking countries outside Germany. Then they went expanded to other countries of Europe. Then they go to China because it's a big market for luxury goods. Then Japan, and now they're trying to get into India as well. So they're trying to get more customers outside their core base because their persona is somebody who is more wealthy, loves luxury goods, and can associate with the brand. Now there is only X percentage you can grow by remaining in that particular region or country. So they have to continuously move outside. Similarly, if you see in India, most of companies started with metro cities, some in Bangalore, some in Delhi, and then they started moving outside. And then you hear this term Bharat and India. So now companies are moving towards tier 2, 3 cities and trying to get customers there, and prioritizing those segments. So that's how I see, and that's how companies also evaluate that I can either grow from being in the same market, or I can possibly go to different markets. Just hold on a minute. Sorry for the interruption. Yeah, I think we're talking about how do we prioritize opportunities for there's plenty of information. How do we prioritize that, and how do we prioritize once you have an open-ended statement? How do you prioritize different solutions or tactics around it? So we started with strategy. Like the strategy is to increase the wallet share or share of wallet. And then we spoke about an example of taking one metrics, let's say revenue per user, and breaking down into sub metrics, and then building tactics around it. And how do I grow? And the second example I was taking is about how do different companies, if they have to go to or increase revenue, how do they think about it? Growing from the same set of users and finding the same set of users across different geographies. That's one strategy. Or companies like Flipkart, Myntra, they say, okay, I have a persona who has been buying, but that persona is not increasing a lot. Let's say metro users. Now they build products and features which will resonate with different customer cohorts. So, for example, all the companies went through social commerce or influencer-led commerce to target tier 2, tier 3 janta who would resonate with influencer-led commerce. So that's an methodology which I use to prioritize or let's say think about a problem statement.
Understood. Understood. Thanks for sharing your insights with our audience. Okay, that was great. Okay, so Ankit, you have led product teams across multiple countries. So what are some of the key differences you have observed?
Yeah, interesting. So I've personally worked in Europe, Indonesia, and India, and closely it's also traveled and met people in Bay Area and US. Based on that, I will try to summarize. There are 3 or 4 key things which I see very different across these markets. So first is scale. Um, so except for, let's say, the FANG companies or FANG plus app companies, um, in US or in Europe, you will not see the products are built to cater to a huge number of audience. So mostly they start with local population, and compared to India or let's say Indonesia, Southeast countries, the scale for which those products are built are different. Later on, they keep on increasing rapidly when they say that, okay, I have to go and global ambitions. But if you see most of the companies or startup which are there in US, they cater to very small segments, and they don't really have ambitions to go very large scale at the beginning. Um, so that's first variable, which I have seen very different from, let's say, Asian, Southeast Asia, and Indian companies versus Europe and US based companies. In Europe as well, the population is not huge. So, and all the decisions which they take are also considering first scale. Second is the way they approach build versus buy. So most of the companies you will see in Europe, they will always go towards buy. In US, they will have a mixed bag, but mostly I would say 70-80% they will go towards buy again. So that's why you will see a lot of adoption of SaaS products in US countries, and they will be the biggest consumers of SaaS products as well. So, and actually that's linked to the third point, which is availability of talent. So the number of or I would say penetration per population for great engineering talent is much higher in India than any other, or maybe in China. But if you compare it to Europe, Southeast Asia, or US, the availability of tech talent is much easier, and or the great engineering talent available in India is much more better than the Western world. So that's why a lot of times they take a decision of in between build versus buy. They always prefer to buy because it's difficult to, or I would say more economical for them to buy something rather than build in-house, because the salaries, etc., are also higher. So apart from these three dimensions, scale, build versus buy, availability of talent, I specifically, if I think about the product manager role, that's also I have seen vary from geography to geography. So in Europe, they call a lot product manager as a product owner. And there are more elements of program management involved in European countries. However, if you see, at least in US and India, things they started that way, that okay, they are focusing more on a delivery of product features and certain non-business metrics. But both India and US now are moving towards a framework where PMs are given responsibility of specific business metrics, which can be easily correlated with the impact on business. So for example, in SaaS team, how many customers are using it? What is the retention of those customers? How much money or how many additional customers we have got after launch of this particular feature? And that's how they prioritize features as well. That if this is going to give me additional dollar revenue, I'm going to prioritize that feature. And that only comes when PMs are evaluated based upon the outcomes of dollar value. That I have not seen yet in European countries, but India and US, I'm hearing more of this thing. Indonesia specifically is just like whatever happens in India, 3 years later it will happen in India. They just follow India. Most of the tech talent there is also from India. Mostly, if you take GoJek, Grab, the bigger companies, most of them will have Indians only in tech and product roles. So it is the same folks who moved from here to there or still working remotely, and they just follow the trends of the larger companies in India, and then probably will come to Indonesia 2-3 years down the line. So that's how I see the key differences in different countries. So scale, build versus buy, availability of talent, and fourth is specifically to PMs, the ownership level. a lot of program management stuff comes in Europe to product guys or product owners. They call them product owners. While in India, you will see more focus on the business impact. And that's a recent change which I have seen in the last 3-4 years. And I feel that, okay, that will continue to grow. So PMs in India will continuously have to own specific business metrics for them to be successful. So yeah, that's my view to this question.
Got it. That's great. Amazing. All right. So, Ankit, lastly, are there any other sound bites you would like to share with the audience?
I mean, nothing in addition to what we already spoke in the first session. I would say, yeah, I mean, we spoke about personalization, recommendation, search, how these three verticals are different. We also touch base upon different newsletters or podcasts, which somebody can go through if you're looking for more tech-driven product management. Byte Go is one. If you want to learn more about product management basics, there are plenty of courses available or free content from the product folks, product growth, and there are good podcasters. Lenny shares. I love to hear from them and the speakers they invite. So yeah, I mean, networking is a good tool if you're in Bangalore. I mean, you can hit me. There are many that meetups keep on happening in Bangalore, where you can go and discuss about one specific point to a leader from that particular domain, and I'm sure they would be very happy to speak. So these are some of the ways. I mean, there are also these Slack channels from different product communities which you can join for free, and I have seen very active and helpful communication happening there. So if somebody can post, okay, I'm struggling to get an answer to this particular problem, or it may be cultural that, okay, I am not getting the visibility, and usually Twitter and Slack groups are a good method to solve or ask those questions to the audience.
Amazing. Amazing. So, all right, it was a great session, Ankit. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights with us. Okay. For more content, subscribe to Engati and tap the bell icon to get access to exclusive content from thought leaders from around the globe. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you in the next expert soon.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.